In the wild west of the 1800s, where the land stretched far and wide under an endless sky, there lived a widow named Clara. She was known for her strength and determination. After losing her husband to the unforgiving elements of nature, she found herself alone in a world that could be both beautiful and harsh. Clara had always been a resilient woman. Growing up on a small farm, she learned to work hard and fend for herself from a young age. When her husband passed away, many expected her to break under the weight of grief. But instead, Clara chose to honor his memory by continuing their dream of building a life together. Despite the sorrow that lingered in her heart, she was determined to keep moving forward in their small homestead. Each day began with the sun rising over the horizon, casting warm golden light on the vast plains. Clara would rise early, tending to her chores with a strong spirit. The animals needed feeding, and the land required tending. She did not shy away from hard work, rather, she embraced it. It kept her mind occupied and reminded her of the life she had shared with her husband. As winter approached, Clara felt a chill in the air that made her worry about staying warm in their simple cabin. The thought of bitter cold nights filled her with dread. However, Clara was not one to despair for long. She often wandered through the nearby woods and fields, looking for ways to improve her living situation. One day, while exploring an old trail once used by trains long forgotten, Clara stumbled upon something extraordinary, an iron cylinder. It was weathered and rusty but sturdy enough to catch her attention. She pondered how such a structure could be transformed into something more, something that would protect her from the freezing winter nights. With determination sparkling in her eyes, Clara returned home with plans swirling in her mind. Little did she know that this discovery would change everything and lead to an incredible journey of resilience and warmth against all odds. With winter creeping closer, Clara felt the urgency to prepare for the cold months ahead. One chilly afternoon, she ventured beyond her usual path, searching for materials that could help improve her small cabin. The winds whispered through the tall grass, and Clara wrapped her shawl tightly around her shoulders as she walked. As she wandered deeper into the woods, her eyes scanned for anything useful, a fallen branch, a stone to build a fire pit, but it was then that something unusual caught her attention. Among the remnants of an old train construction site lay an iron cylinder, half buried in the earth and covered in rust. It looked like a forgotten relic from another time. Now, what could this be? Clara wondered aloud, stepping closer to inspect the strange find. The cylinder was long and sturdy, with a shape that intrigued her. It seemed like it could withstand even the fiercest storms, much unlike her current home which creaked and groaned against the wind. Her heart raced as she imagined the possibilities. This could be a shelter, she thought excitedly. If I can seal it up properly, it might keep me warm when the snow falls. With renewed hope and determination, Clara knelt down to examine the structure more closely. The iron surface felt cool under her fingers as she traced its edges. She spent several moments considering how to move it back to her cabin. It took effort to clear away some debris around it before finally managing to free it from its resting place in the dirt. Once upright, it stood tall and proud against the backdrop of towering trees. "I'll need help," Clara said to herself with a hint of frustration mixed with excitement. She knew she couldn't do this alone. Dragging such a hefty object back home would require strength beyond what she had. Yet deep inside, she felt a spark of inspiration brewing. Clara left the cylinder standing where it was for now but returned home with ideas swirling in her mind about how it could transform into something remarkable, a safe haven against nature's harshness, where she could live on without fear of freezing nights or storms raging outside. The cylinder was not just metal, it was hope wrapped in steel. Clara woke up the next morning with a sense of purpose coursing through her veins. The image of the iron cylinder had consumed her thoughts overnight, and she felt an undeniable drive to turn it into a home. After breakfast, she gathered a few tools she had managed to collect over time, an old hammer, some nails, and lengths of thick rope. Each item felt important, and she was ready to begin her project. Before setting out, she surveyed the landscape around her, noticing how the leaves danced in the brisk wind. "It's going to get colder every day," she murmured to herself. Determined, Clara made her way back to the cylinder, a fire burning in her heart as she approached the towering structure. Once there, Clara started to inspect its condition closely. As she ran her hands over the surface, she found several holes where rain and snow might seep inside. "These need to be sealed up tight," she said firmly. With a mixture of excitement and anxiety, she laid out her plan on how to cover them. Clara began by using scrap metal pieces found scattered around the area. She carefully fitted each piece over the openings and secured them with nails from her small stash. The sound of the hammer striking metal echoed in the stillness of the woods, each strike ringing with determination. "This is going to work," Clara reassured herself with every hit. As hours passed, sweat formed on her brow despite the chill in the air. She paused only briefly to wipe it away with the back of her hand. No one said it would be easy, Clara thought as she stood back for a moment to admire her progress. The cylinder was starting to look more secure and inviting. After patching up the last gap, Clara wrapped sturdy rope around the outside for added protection against wind and snow. She tugged at it with all her strength, ensuring it was bound tightly. Once finished, Clara stepped back once more to take in what she had accomplished. "I've done it," she exclaimed proudly. The iron cylinder now looked ready to weather any storm that came its way. Inside, she could almost feel its warmth waiting for her, a refuge from the cold nights ahead. With renewed hope, Clara smiled. This cylinder was no longer just metal, it was becoming a home filled with dreams of safety and warmth amidst life's challenges. With the iron cylinder securely sealed and ready to withstand the winter, Clara turned her attention to making the inside cozy and inviting. She wanted it to feel like a home, a sanctuary where she could find comfort in the long, cold nights ahead. Clara began by gathering materials from her surroundings. The woods were full of resources that could help her create a warm atmosphere. She collected dried grasses and soft moss, using them to line the floor of the cylinder. "This will help keep the cold from creeping up," she said to herself as she spread the soft bedding across the metal surface. Next, Clara sought out sturdy branches that had fallen during recent storms. She crafted a simple bed frame by stacking them together, creating a place where she could rest her weary body. With some old blankets she had salvaged from her cabin, she covered the makeshift bed, turning it into a cozy nook that beckoned for warmth and rest. To add a touch of home, Clara fashioned a small table using a flat piece of wood she found nearby and propped it on two sturdy stones. She placed it near the center of the cylinder, envisioning it as a space for meals and reading. "I can eat my supper here and think about happier times," she mused, imagining her husband sitting across from her. For light, Clara used an old tin can she had discovered among her supplies. With a bit of leftover fat from her cooking, she created a small candle that would flicker in the evenings. "This will bring some warmth," she said with satisfaction as she placed it on her new table. As she decorated further, Clara hung bits of colorful fabric from the walls to give life to the interior. The fabrics were remnants from her past life, each piece carrying memories of laughter and love. They fluttered gently in the breeze that slipped through any remaining gaps in the metal. Finally, Clara gathered stones from the nearby creek to form a small hearth in one corner of the cylinder. Though it was modest, it was perfect for building small fires that would warm both her body and spirit. Sitting back on her makeshift bed, Clara took in her handiwork with joy. "I've done my best," she said softly, feeling contentment wash over her. The iron cylinder was no longer just cold metal, it was transforming into a home filled with memories waiting to be made, a cozy refuge against the Wild West nights ahead. As winter settled over the Wild West, Clara quickly learned the reality of life during this harsh season. Snowstorms rolled in like mighty beasts, blanketing the landscape in deep drifts. Inside her iron cylinder, she felt safe and warm, but the world outside was a different story. The biting cold seeped into every corner, and the shrill wind howled through the trees, whipping snow into swirling patterns. Many nearby cabins struggled against the relentless grip of winter. Clara had seen smoke rising from their chimneys just days before, but with each passing storm, fewer neighbors ventured outside. She worried for them as she watched their once vibrant lives fade into isolation. Each morning brought new layers of snow, and Clara often peered out to see familiar paths disappearing beneath thick blankets of white. "Look at those poor folks," she murmured one day while gazing out of her cylinder. "I hope they have enough firewood to keep warm." She remembered how vulnerable she had once felt in her small cabin, reliant on its thin walls to shield her from nature's fury. Now, she was proud of what she had crafted, a sanctuary that stood strong against the elements. However, even within her cozy home, challenges remained. The snow piled high around the iron cylinder's base, creating an icy moat that made it difficult to gather more firewood or search for food. Clara often had to bundle up tightly, wrapping herself in layers of fabric, to brave the cold whenever supplies ran low. Her breath formed little clouds in the air as she stepped outside, each exhale a reminder of how frosty temperatures pushed against her cheeks. On particularly severe nights when winds rattled through the surrounding trees like restless spirits, Clara would sit near her hearth with a small fire flickering warmly inside. "I may be alone," she said to herself one evening, "but I am safe here." She listened to the storm rage outside, thankful for her solid walls and protective home. Despite these obstacles, Clara's resolve grew stronger with each storm that passed. She learned ways to gather snow for drinking water and found joy in preserving her supplies during good weather. Each day became a test of endurance and creativity, but within her sealed iron sanctuary, Clara knew she had created more than just a shelter. It was a testament to her strength against all odds. Inside her sealed iron cylinder, Clara found a remarkable comfort that stood in stark contrast to the biting cold outside. As the winter storms raged on, snow piled high around her home, but within the sturdy walls, she felt a sense of safety and warmth that many of her neighbors could only dream of. The hearth Clara had built became the heart of her sanctuary. Each evening, she carefully tended to the small fire, feeding it with kindling and pieces of wood she had managed to gather. The flames danced happily, casting flickering shadows against the metal walls and filling the space with a cozy glow. "It feels like home," Clara would whisper to herself as she settled into her makeshift bed, wrapped in soft blankets. Even when the wind howled outside like a pack of wolves, Clara could hear nothing but the crackling fire and her own heartbeat within the cylinder. She often took a moment to appreciate how well her hard work had paid off. "I did this," she beamed with pride as she felt the comforting warmth radiating around her. While other cabins struggled to keep their homes warm, Clara knew that her careful sealing had made all the difference. She noticed smoke rising from chimneys of neighboring cabins but realized many were barely able to keep fires going amid relentless snow drifts and icy winds. "I hope they're managing," she thought with concern as she watched from her small window. On particularly cold nights, Clara invited thoughts of her neighbors into her heart. She considered inviting them over for supper but knew many remained too proud or too worried about their own struggles. Instead, she resolved to offer help when possible. "If anyone needs firewood or food, I'll share what I can," she promised herself. One evening, as she sat near the hearth enveloped in warmth, Clara reflected on how fortunate she was to have created such a refuge. "This iron cylinder may look unusual," she mused aloud, "but it has become my fortress." Each night spent within its sturdy embrace reminded her of the strength and resilience that lived inside her, a testament to survival against all odds. Feeling gratitude wash over her like warmth from the fire, Clara whispered a quiet prayer for those struggling outside. She understood that while others faced darkness in their cold homes, she had built a light-filled haven, a place where hope thrived despite winter's chill. As days turned into weeks, word began to spread about Clara and her unique iron cylinder home. Curiosity peaked among her neighbors as they braved the cold to visit her, eager to see how she had transformed a rusted relic into a cozy refuge. One afternoon, Clara heard a knock at her door. It was Mrs. Thompson from the nearby cabin, bundled thick in layers of wool. "Clara!" Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, stepping inside and immediately feeling the warmth envelop her like a blanket. "I've heard so much about your wonderful home. I had to see it for myself." Clara smiled warmly, pleased to share her creation. "Welcome. Take a seat by the hearth. It's nice to have some company." As they settled near the crackling fire, Clara offered warm tea brewed from herbs she had gathered. As they sipped their tea, Mrs. Thompson's eyes widened with amazement. "You've done an incredible job here. I never imagined an iron cylinder could feel so inviting." Clara chuckled softly, "It takes a bit of creativity. I've learned how to make it work for me." She explained how she sealed everything tightly and created a small hearth that kept the space warm, even on the coldest nights. Word spread quickly, and soon more neighbors came to visit. Mr. Jenkins and his son, little Timmy, appeared at her door one frigid afternoon. Timmy's cheeks were rosy from the cold as he peered inside with wide eyes. "Wow! Can we come in?" he asked excitedly. "Of course," Clara replied with delight, waving them inside. As Mr. Jenkins entered, he marveled at the cozy setting illuminated by the firelight. "Clara," he said appreciatively, "you've turned this old thing into something special. We've been struggling with our firewood just to keep warm. How do you do it?" Clara shared her techniques for gathering snow for fresh water and managing her fire efficiently to conserve wood while keeping her home heated. The neighbors listened intently as she spoke, taking in every detail. As laughter and stories filled the air within the metal walls, Clara felt grateful for their visits. They exchanged ideas for surviving winter together and formed bonds that transcended their struggles. By sharing her warmth and hospitality, Clara not only showcased her innovative home but also ignited a spirit of community among those who once felt isolated during harsh winters. With each visit, they left inspired by her resilience and creativity, a true testament that comfort could be found even amidst life's most challenging seasons. As Clara welcomed neighbors into her iron cylinder home, she noticed something remarkable unfolding within the warmth of her walls. What started as simple visits for curiosity transformed into a blossoming community. The isolation that had once gripped the Wild West was being replaced by laughter, shared stories, and mutual support as widowed and lonely neighbors came together. One evening, Clara invited several neighbors over for a small gathering, hoping to foster a deeper bond among them all. She prepared a hearty stew using what little meat she had left, accompanied by fresh bread and herbal tea. "Come in and enjoy a warm meal with me," she called out to Mr. Jenkins, Mrs. Thompson, and little Timmy, who were standing outside, their faces lit with excitement. As they gathered around the hearth, Clara noticed how easily conversations flowed between her guests. They shared tales of survival during winter storms, exchanging tips on gathering firewood and conserving heat. "I found some dry branches along the creek," Mrs. Thompson remarked. "They burn longer than what I used before." Clara smiled as she watched the camaraderie develop. It warmed her heart to see her neighbors enjoying each other's company and forming connections that had been absent before. Little Timmy chimed in with his youthful enthusiasm, recounting a funny incident from his cabin that made everyone chuckle. Through these gatherings, friendships blossomed as they discovered they weren't alone in their struggles. Clara realized that her home had become a sanctuary not just for herself but for others seeking comfort and companionship. Her iron cylinder was more than a shelter, it was now a hub of connection amid the cold wilderness. Soon, more neighbors began visiting regularly, creating a rhythm of community life. They took turns hosting meals or sharing resources, like extra wood or herbs they had saved. Each visit became an opportunity for storytelling and bonding, making the winter feel less daunting. With every gathering, Clara felt her own spirit lift as she nurtured these newfound relationships. She understood that they were all battling loneliness together and that sharing warmth, both in terms of hospitality and friendship, could ease their burdens. As the weeks passed, Clara's iron cylinder went from being merely a home to a beacon of hope for those around her. In this space where hearts warmed together against the chill of winter, resilience flourished, fostering an unbreakable bond among those who had once faced the long nights in solitude. Clara knew that through kindness and togetherness, they could conquer any challenge that came their way. As winter wore on, Clara felt a profound sense of transformation within herself. The challenges she had faced since her husband's passing had not only tested her strength but had also revealed a wellspring of creativity and resilience she never knew she possessed. Each morning, as the sun broke over the horizon, illuminating the landscape in hues of gold and pink, Clara felt hopeful for the future. Her iron cylinder home stood strong against the elements, a testament to her determination and ingenuity. The warmth from her hearth was not just a physical comfort, it represented the inner strength she had cultivated through hardship. "I can do this," she said one morning, stirring a pot of stew over the fire. "I am capable." With each gathering of neighbors, Clara witnessed how her once isolated life had blossomed into something vibrant and supportive. She found joy in cooking for her friends and sharing stories that made them laugh. They exchanged ideas on surviving winter together and formed bonds that would last beyond the season. The laughter that filled her home echoed like music, reminding her that community could thrive even in the coldest of times. Clara realized that her creativity didn't stop at merely fixing up her home, it extended to nurturing these relationships as well. She started planning small projects with her neighbors, creating simple garden beds for spring or discussing ways to gather supplies more efficiently during storms. The thought of working alongside others ignited excitement in her heart. Through every challenge they faced together, Clara grew more confident in herself and in what they could accomplish as a community. The iron cylinder became more than just shelter, it was now a symbol of unity, hope, and possibility. "We are stronger together," she often reminded them during their gatherings. One evening, as she sat by the hearth surrounded by laughter and warmth, Clara reflected on how far she had come since those early days of solitude. The fear and uncertainty that once clouded her heart were fading away, replaced by gratitude for the friendships she had forged and the home she had built. "I may be a widow," Clara thought softly, "but I am not alone." With each passing day, she discovered new layers of strength within herself, an unyielding spirit ready to face whatever life might bring next. As snow continued to fall outside, Clara felt an undeniable sense of hope blooming within, a reminder that even after loss, new beginnings are always possible when one embraces creativity and connection. As spring approached, bringing the promise of renewal and warmth, Clara reflected on how her journey with the iron cylinder had changed not only her life but also the lives of her neighbors. What began as a solitary endeavor to create a home had blossomed into a legacy of inspiration for everyone in the community. The once isolated individuals now came together, united by the lessons Clara had unknowingly imparted. Clara's innovative approach to her living situation encouraged others to think outside the box when facing their own hardships. Inspired by her resilience, neighbors began reassessing their circumstances. They explored new ways to improve their homes and lifestyles, seeking creative solutions to challenges that once seemed insurmountable. If Clara can turn an old iron cylinder into a warm home, they thought, what can we do with our own situations? Mr. Jenkins, for instance, decided to rebuild his cabin using salvaged materials from the nearby woods, just as Clara had done with her iron structure. He marveled at how much more inviting it felt as he embraced his creativity in construction. "I never would have thought of this without Clara's example," he admitted one day during a shared meal. Mrs. Thompson organized community gatherings where neighbors could share resources more effectively and brainstorm ideas together. Inspired by Clara's hospitality, she opened her home for regular potlucks, allowing everyone to contribute and connect over food while building camaraderie. As summer approached, it was clear that the bonds forged during those long winter months had created a ripple effect throughout the community. People no longer felt alone, they had each other to lean on during difficult times. The spirit of cooperation that emerged was rooted in gratitude for Clara and her bold decision to transform her life. Clara watched this transformation unfold with joy in her heart. She realized that her iron cylinder was not merely a shelter but a catalyst for change, an embodiment of hope that encouraged others to find strength in unity and creativity. "I may have started this journey alone," she said one evening as she gathered with friends around the hearth, "but together we have built something beautiful." Her words resonated as every neighbor nodded in agreement. They understood that through kindness and collaboration, they could overcome any challenge that lay ahead. In time, Clara's legacy became woven into the fabric of their community, a lasting reminder that even in life's most trying moments, hope can flourish when people come together and embrace their creativity. The iron cylinder stood proudly amid all this growth, symbolizing not just survival but a tapestry of shared experiences that would inspire generations to come.